all of you for this very special session. This is continuation of our Career Connect series that careers360.com has been organizing over the last couple of weeks. We'll continue to do so that any questions that you have on MBA, online MBA, specializations in MBA, or online specializations in MBA will be addressed in this very forum. I'm sure in the last session that we did, we had the professor from IIM Ahmedabad explaining why and how an online MBA is very useful, especially for those students who probably cannot take up a full-time MBA, going and spending that maybe 20-25 lakhs. Today, I have with me Dr. Brinda Sampath. Brinda has been into this forefront of training and training students in the online space with NMIMS. NMIMS, those of you know, is a very, very well-known name in the MBA space. And she works with the School of Continuing Education with NMIMS over the last few years. Brinda, let me welcome you very warmly to this very special session. And I'm pretty sure that with your background, your understanding, and I'm going to very, very quickly give our audience a brief of who you are and what your background has been, so that this session is going to be really, really useful for everyone. Now, before I continue, my friends, let me also tell you that utilize this session to ask any questions that you have, any doubts that you might have about your careers, especially taking up an MBA, both offline or online, specializations, which specializations to take and where from to take, very, very freely. The chat window will always be open for you. So I have a few questions to ask the expert that we have with us, Dr. Brinda Sampath, but you're most free to ask her questions too through your chat, and I, your host, will help you to make sure that every question of yours is answered. Those of you who do not know me, let me also give you my very, very brief introduction before we kind of get in talking to Dr. Brinda Sampath. My name is Arks, as you would have seen on the name, and I am a MBA from IIM Calcutta. Way back in 25 years back I've done, but over the last 22 years, I have been training students to get into these very colleges like the IIMs, Excels, FMSs, and the NMIMS of the world. So with that very brief, let me just once again, let us give a very, very warm welcome to Dr. Brinda Sampath. And for each one of you to understand what kind of questions you can ask her, she is an assistant professor in the information systems domain at NMIMS. She has a career experience, teaching experience of for over 10 years. And if you have heard of things like artificial intelligence, mobile health, wearable devices, and or social media, and the fusion of information systems and marketing management, she is the person to be asked any and all these questions. So once again, Brinda, thank you so much for joining us at careers360.com and Careers Connect series for us to talk to the students. A few words from you before we begin.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Okay, and I'm really elated to be on this platform to kind of help students, shape their future and understand what best they can make out of, and I would say a career that they would aspire to be. So thank you everyone for having me here, and thank you Careers 360. I encourage you to ask your questions, so that each of you can benefit from the others' questions as well. So yes, let's begin. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. And before I begin, somebody asked me, what is the full form of NMIMS? It is Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, my friends. It's one of the very, very good schools in the country, situated not just in Mumbai, though it was the headquarters of it. Now they're in Navi Mumbai, Indore, Hyderabad, and of course, expanding very, very fast. And more importantly, they are in the online space. Okay. And with that statement, let me start asking you, Dr. Brinda Sampath, what do you think? I mean, MBA, everybody knows, is very, very good. What do you think is the scope of the online MBAs in India specifically and in the world in general?
Mhm. So to begin with, I think a few years back, when you would take the term or use the word online MBA, I think there was some kind of a reluctance that people would experience while they would talk about it. But in the recent past, I believe this connotation of online MBA is a parlance that you hear across the industry, right? The COVID only accentuated it much more. And as a result of which, you see the uptake in online education is extremely high. I can actually tell you of, since I have been associated with online teaching for the last 10 years, we have seen a dramatic shift over the years in the number of students opting for such courses and the mainstream acceptance of such courses across industries now. Several reasons, of course, for it. One is the rigor that also is required in these programs, right? Second, what you see is the number of working professionals who don't want to compromise on their existing careers, yet again want to upskill themselves in order to meet the changing requirements at their job, the job demands that they have. As a result of which, I see today the kind of online MBAs that are being offered definitely enable students or participants to upskill themselves in the best possible way to meet what is required in the industry.
Having said a broad setting on an overall online MBA, Dr. Sampath, what do you see and how do you see the specializations that are given, specialized online MBAs, and the value of them and the scope of them in the years to come?
Correct. So this is an interesting question because specialized MBA always holds I would say a special place, so as to say. One you have is a general MBA. And typically, I have seen students who would want to understand the business sense of things, right? They opt for understanding the various verticals in an organization and would want to contribute well in certain areas. They're not quite certain how a business functions, right? Because typically, this is the pedigree. You see students coming in from various backgrounds and opting for an MBA, right? So in order to understand maybe how the organization functions, typically what are the different verticals, what is expected of them, and they don't have a clarity in thought, I usually see those kind of students opting for a general MBA.
Correct.
Now, coming to a specialized course or a specialization per se, right? A specialization offers you with the ability to delve deeper into one specific area, right? So the most common specializations that we all would be aware of would be finance, marketing, HR, international business, right? I would say banking, typically banking and finance, so as to say. Then again, you've got information technology management, right? Those would be your typical specializations. Now, over the years, what we've also seen is a few other specializations mushroom, right? So there's something which is known as data sciences, or there is business analytics. Typically, there's artificial intelligence. Okay. Now, we see a lot of uptake in courses like these as well, because organizations are definitely adopting technology to kind of improve their decision-making abilities, right? So along with the traditional specializations that we have, we also see the mushrooming of courses like data science, artificial intelligence, entrepreneurship, also on the rise. Just one bit here again. Now, one may wonder, so what should we really opt for, right? Since we've got both.
That would have been my next question, actually.
Yeah, I would figure that, right?
Please go ahead.
So having said that, for people who understand a specific domain, right? So if I've been working in operations for a while and I want to understand or, fine tune or delve deeper and make a career, and this is where I see myself 5 years down the line, or here's the goal that I want to reach. To those students, I would categorically say you must opt for a specialized area. When you see your path, you know where you want to be, right? And you're currently working into it. For a few students who believe, who yet want to set, or they're just establishing, or they're just new, and they don't come with a background of this sort, it's good to get an overall perspective. Okay, adding a little nuance here and there of a few courses may help, but this gives you an overall picture of how really an organization functions. So to those students, I would say you could opt for a general MBA.
So the next question to you, Dr. Brinda Sampath, if I may ask, is that you said very clearly that if a person is fresher or a person who does not have an exposure to industry, corporates as such, a generalized or a general online MBA is more preferred, whereas a person with a little bit of an experience in a particular field or an area should ideally take up a specialized MBA. Is there any other educational qualifications that you believe are required to take up a specialized MBA?
Sure. So having said that, several institutes, educational institutes mandate their own requirements, but the basic expectation here, of course, will be you would have finished your graduate, right? So you've got to have your graduation is necessary, and back again with a criteria or a cutoff that would be set by the university. Okay, this is the basic entry level. However, a few also go a level beyond for a specialization, and they say, okay, if you have a 2-year work experience in that area, that would ideally be preferred, because then I believe you can apply what you have seen around in your workplace, and you can relate and associate more with the courses that we teach. So ideally, you could have a graduation, which makes you eligible enough. Having a work experience, back again, is a preferred, or 2-year work experience is something which is preferred.
So one student is asked on chat saying that, hey, I am an engineer, final year engineering student. I want to take up a specialized MBA online. Mm-hmm. Eventually, I want to run my father's business. Mm-hmm. What, according to you, Dr. Sampath, would be the right course of action for him?
Correct. So the way I look at it, since you want to run your own business, and since you come from a technical background, at this point in time, I think understanding the nuances of how a business functions, right? So you've got to be able to understand the elements or aspects of accounting. You've got to be able to understand the elements of operations. You've got to understand marketing, even from the lens of digital marketing per se, to set it up, right? In such a situation, I would really request the candidate, or probably advise the candidate, if that's the right word, to opt for a generalized or a general MBA to get that perspective. Of course, as and when, if you feel there is an aspect that you really want to now cater to or delve deeper into, maybe you could hone your skills with certain online certifications, etc., which can, get you to focus only on one area. But to lay the foundation and have your business, and to understand, since you'll have to manage so many people, a lot of these little skills are imparted in a general general MBA.
So that brings to me this next question automatically, and that is, if you're saying certifications do help, what do you think is the difference between having a certification in certain specialization versus an MBA in a certain specialization, both when they are done online?
Correct. Okay, so let's kind of understand the audience when they're opting for a certification versus when they're opting for an MBA, right? When you opt for an MBA, you're out dedicating, let's say you're investing your 2 years into understanding many more concepts, right? And this is across various areas or even a specialized area, but it's the time factor. You have 2 years and you want to understand a business functioning in out. Whereas on the other side, when you look at a certification, they are designed with a much shorter duration in mind, because the fact that you want to look at only specializing in, let's say, an aspect or upskilling yourself, right, and getting
Correct.
certified there, so that when I hold that kind of a certification, somebody who has to probably recruit me, or in an organization, if I need to present something to ask for an increment, because now I am certified in that area, these certifications back then help you there. For example, there are a
Absolutely.
lot of people who opt from the operations area, right? They look at certifications in Lean Six Sigma. They look at certifications in, let's say, specifically project management, because typically IT people from the IT background want to head teams, right? And they manage
Correct.
projects. So understanding how does agile projects work, and just to focus on that area, because they see themselves, I would say, move in that direction in their careers. So certifications back then can help them to kind of reach their end goal.
Very good. So, what I understand from what you're saying is very clearly the certifications are specifically for people to upskill themselves, whereas a generalized MBA or a specialized MBA will be furthering their career in a different industry itself, not necessarily in the same company. Is that a correct way of putting it across?
Yes, yes, that's
Now, tell
absolutely.
me the next question that I can ask you, obviously from the answer you have given, is what do really companies, aspirational corporates look for? Do they even give value to an online MBA degree, specifically if it is a specialized MBA? And how much value do they give for a certification programs?
So I believe both of them hold their own merit. Do companies value any of these programs if they're done in the online context? Definitely yes, right? And we see that because we see more and more recruitment, from the students who we've already taught, or we see a higher, I would say, um, uh, how do I best put this? We get back testimonials from our students who continuously tell us that we've gotten a raise, and this has been post the completion of a program, right? So we
So,
definitely
do you
know.
think that corporates have some kind of a formula or some kind of a incentive for students to take up these kind of specialization certifications?
Yes, well, they okay. So, is there an incentive for them? We see a lot of them awarding them a better increment or
A
better
raise.
packages. Yes, once they have completed such programs, because many a times it's the mandate. You need to have those skills to be able to rub them off on your team members as well. Understand the business holistically, right? And most of
Correct.
our candidates do that. So, having said that, do corporates recognize both of these? Yes. When do they prefer either of them would typically depend on the organization and the role that you play, right? Now, just to give you an example, let's say if candidate A belongs to the HR department in an organization. Now, how does this online, let's say, HR program help, or MBA in HR help this candidate? At this point in time, the candidate was only looking after L&D, right? And probably didn't
Mhm.
know about other aspects in the HR department, right? But when you finish a program, you not only know about L&D, you know about compensation and benefits, you understand about payroll, you understand about recruitment, you understand about using tools and using analytics in recruitment. So now you don't only position this candidate in one area in an organization, in the department, or with one function, so as to say. You can now provide them with, there's a role diversity that this person can even apply for within the organization, which naturally acts as the next stepping stone for success for them. So that's how I would look at it.
Now, wonderful. So, coming back to your specialization in IT, analytics, and healthcare management, probably too, I want to understand which are those specializations. We keep hearing about business analytics, data sciences, you know, data analytics, business intelligence. There are so many such kind of things. Which are the ones which are, up and coming, which are more sought after and have a traction in the industry?
Absolutely. So all the terms that you have just mentioned to me on right now, right? So business analytics or data sciences, machine learning, artificial intelligence, clearly these are the sought after specializations, right? Organizations are looking for candidates who have these skills. At the same time, as business schools, we are presenting various programs in these areas, because what we realize is that typically data is the oil, I believe, right, that runs the engine. And we need more and more people who can now help organizations, I would say, churn out this data in order to create insights much more quickly. And we see a gap yet in this space. And thus we say that we clearly believe, given the way things are, right? We're talking about industry 4.0, we're talking about 5G now, we're talking about using mobiles everywhere we go, everyone's doing that.
Right.
So with that, I would say MBA, let's say in artificial intelligence, or when we talk about business analytics, or even if we talk about digital transformation, these are areas that are really in demand at this point in time.
In fact, NMIMS has pioneered in this digital transformation over the last few years, if I'm not wrong.
Absolutely.
Tell me, since you are also from NMIMS, Dr. Brinda Sampath, do you have any entry criteria for any of these online MBAs in terms of minimum number of years of experience, work experience?
So like I said, ideally we would prefer 2 years of experience, right, for any of our programs, because
is it a mandatory thing or is it ideal?
No, it's an ideal criteria that we have for the online programs, because then we believe that you will be able to appreciate what we're saying you'll be able to associate with the actual problems in the industry, because you would have heard of your superiors talk about it, or you would have worked on a project which gives you an insight, right? So we ideally prefer it, but that doesn't take away from the fact that if you don't have any kind of experience, you can't enroll into a program and start afresh. We do have a lot of freshers as well, and I believe their zeal to learn typically works well. And what we also understand is, since we have a diverse batch, right, wherein we have some who are working professionals, some who are freshers, there's a whole lot of peer learning that takes place. There's a whole lot of hand holding from seniors in the batch, right? This is pretty much any MBA, it comes with peer learning, right? That's the whole essence of doing an MBA. It's not only about a professor coming to class and teaching you.
Which is automatically my next question to you, Professor. How do you ensure that in a online cohort, you are able to get the students to engage with the teacher, as well as among themselves, to enhance their networking abilities?
Oh, wonderful. So I think, technology has changed so much. Now, the way you and I are interacting, of course, we also get our students to interact with each other. So they can just give a hand raise, like what I see Gayatri has done here. And we can just kind of unmute them and they can come up on screen talk. We also have something which is known as breakout rooms, which gives us the ability to split students into small groups for discussion, wherein they can discuss, right? These days, we also have something new wherein we call them as boot camps or immersion activities. Whilst we do an online program, we also hold offline activities wherein we get students to network and interact. So I think in terms of engagement, it doesn't stop, because students also create their offline groups on WhatsApp and they're connected on LinkedIn. So it's seldom that they don't know their batchmates. Engagement happens in several ways. So we also carry out a whole lot of role play activities, group activities, right? Polls within using several tools to emulate what we're actually teaching. Another thing that we also do is use a lot of simulations. Today, you have a whole lot of online simulations. We have, I believe, a product by the name Capstone again, which emulates what an actual business does. So we get our students to participate in any such activities or play any of these simulations. so that they never feel that they're not a part of the organization, or, it's very theoretic in nature. I think we kind of ensure that it's a holistic learning experience.
So when you select the cohort for a particular program, do you also keep in mind the diversity of the batch, or is it as it comes and you'll have a number 100 to fill up and you do that?
No, that's not what it is. So that's not how it is done, rather. So I'm glad you picked up this question of diversity in the batch. Yes, we typically do ensure that we've got a diverse batch, because having people from different backgrounds is what fosters learning, right? So if I were to ensure everyone was only a specific kind, then I believe the learning would be slightly different, which does take place, and that is what I would tell you too. But that would be for a specialized program that we run, right? Wherein we are, let's say, training a set of supply chain managers on a topic of supply chain. So then typically we will, have a batch which only has supply chain managers, maybe. But for our other programs, we usually have a diverse batch of people coming in from various backgrounds, different age groups, different education, and different work experience as well. And thus I said the learning from, hand holding, the seniors will probably handhold the juniors have questions, they have new ways, they are extremely digitally smart, right? So yeah,
it gets done. Wonderful. In fact, I mean, having done about understanding, hey, the online MBA is catching up. Within the online MBA, there is a specialization which are catching up, especially for people to enhance their skills or become better in their jobs. The next question that comes in, what, in your opinion, Dr. Sampath, have you seen as the acceptance from the industry to take it at the same level as a normal MBA, the online MBA cohorts at the normal MBA cohorts? What is your view on that and your observation on that, given your experience?
Sure. So back again, like I said, the kind of students who opt for an online MBA typically are pressed for time, right? So for people who can't invest those 2 years on campus for whatever reason, right? It could be because they currently are at a good position, or currently are only looking to enhance one aspect in their professional lives, for which they're doing these courses. So depending upon what they're looking at, we understand that candidates from an offline and online can't be compared as such. They're both doing it for different reasons. Having said that, is online recognized in the industry? Yes, it typically is. So like I said, had you asked me this question maybe 7 years back or 8 years back, my answer could have been slightly different, right? But with time, right, the number of institutes that offer it, the kind of rigor that's coming in, the kind of regulations that are mandated, by several bodies that are governing this space, ensures that the students who finish these programs also stand very close to, someone who's typically done a full-time MBA.
Right. There's one student with us, Vaishnavi, is asking very interesting question, actually. She's asking, if I want to get into an IIM, let's say like an Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta kind of a group, would doing an online MBA first or an online specialization first help her or such people to kind of go into an IIM, if especially one does not have a great, academic profile to start with?
Okay, so the requirement at any of the IIMs clearly is their, the entrance test. So
correct.
That is something.
That reminds me, what is the entrance test for NMIMS's online program?
No, we have it only for a few programs. It's not for all our select programs. It's only when you do an executive MBA, yes, you've got to go through the online test and as GDPI to be able to enroll yourself in the program. For the others, we don't have one, so to say, right? And having said that, so Vaishnavi, if you wish to understand, let's say, the nuances here of the business, like I say, you probably want to use this as a mechanism to familiarize yourself. However, is this required or will this give you an edge per se? I would say this will just help you or enable you to understand things better. Anyway, once you are in the program, you will study it much more at depth.
Right, right. In fact, one last question before we take up other questions from the student. Is it true that some of these companies are preferring online MBA students also because they may have to pay a little less CTC to start with as compared to a regular MBA? Do you see that kind of a trend happening too?
Again, well, it's I won't say they would prefer it because they have to pay less CTC. Yes, they may offer you a less CTC, but in terms of the rigor of what you have done, or in terms of your skill sets, or in terms of your knowledge, there is no compromise there, right? We've seen a lot of students bag good packages as well when they've applied to companies, right? So it's a mixed bag of multiple things, right? This is one aspect that can work for you, your online qualification. But back again, I believe the candidate needs to hold, a whole lot of other skills to be able to communicate, to negotiate. All of that also comes into play. But again, companies are looking at students who have completed their online MBA today to for several offers and several positions.
One question on NMIMS, Dr. Sampath. What kind of a help does an NMIMS online MBA or a specialized MBA give to its students to be able to get placements?
So we have a whole lot of activities where we help, or we have, I would say, career assistance for students, right? We handhold them into how they can prepare themselves for appearing for interviews across various companies. We help them in understanding what's the best way of crafting a resume, right? We also help them understand what are those little areas in their resume which they can work upon so as to be able to be, I would say, market ready for a job, right? Back again, we also run an internal portal wherein we facilitate our students, or we encourage them to post jobs in their organization, wherein other students who are qualified can typically apply. So we groom them is one internal thing we do, and then we also give them this kind of a support.
In NMIMS, for all these specialized MBAs, what is the cohort size?
So that would vary depending upon, typically we look at a class of about 100 students. That would be a cohort size attending the class at that point.
Okay. So do you think about 100? I think that is the difference between probably a offline MBA versus online. Here in online, more people can actually attend at the same time as compared to.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
And another benefit that we have is we can have students pan India, pan globe actually, but the location is not a restriction. So we can just have people across time zones enter class. And in fact, we do have a whole lot of students who are across Singapore, across Dubai, okay, the Middle East countries who kind of take classes. So yes.
One more on a HR type of a question for you, for the students. Okay. What kind of a mindset do you think a student requires when he or she is opting for an online MBA as such?
In terms of mindset, I believe you've got to be open to learn, experience, and learn from your peers, right? So the traditional way of learning maybe of what we have seen in India is quite a spoon-fed thing, right? So we like things to be put on the platter and given to us, but that's not what it is. When you come to a class, or especially not online per se, even offline, it's more about learning not only what's being taught, but going beyond to kind of look and delve deeper. So, for example, to support it, I could say, whilst I'm teaching you a concept in class, right? Let's say we're talking about analytics, and maybe you're very passionate about marketing. Now, you should leverage or take this understanding from the class and start digging deeper into, companies that are kind of establishing it, using it, what's the growth. And when you start doing that yourself too, I believe you kind of navigate and find the paths that, this is what interests me, and you can come back to class and again ask. So have this mindset that you always want to learn, and it's not more about just your marks, just about clearing an exam, getting a degree. So
Yeah.
come with that kind of a mindset to class, I think.
Gayatri is asking, Gayatri Shankar, ma'am, what about MBA in hospital administration? Is there any scope? Would you have any idea about that, Dr. Sampath?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, there are a lot of colleges now who are also looking into this area, and there are a lot of career outcomes as well, that I would clearly be able to see. I see people take up roles of being able to manage operations within the hospital, right? I also see people manage staff in the hospital. Some areas also help you. So it's called MBA in healthcare management. And there are quite a few colleges who are offering such roles. In fact, the roles that you may probably want to look at is a healthcare consultant, okay, or a medical health service manager, an administrative service manager, a healthcare administrator. And back again, not only hospitals, but you also have some kind of pharmaceutical companies that may also, you may find roles in such areas.
Right. Divya is asking this question. I'm a software developer in the IT industry, in the tech domain, have 7 years of experience. Which and how would an MBA be helpful to me?
Okay, so Divya, of course, depending on what kind of a path do you want to navigate into, right? If you want to be programming and continue programming for the next few years, maybe switching to an MBA doesn't make too much sense in your case. But if you want to get on to another role wherein you want to manage a team of people, right? Take on or head projects, okay? Or get into, I would say, again, managing a group of people or programmers who do the back end and front end programming. Or if you want to be an analyst, a business analyst who interacts with clients, brings in the projects, okay? Now, for all of this, you need to understand business, because any project today, an IT project, has a business implication. So you've got to be, let's say, the liaison between the client and your team, and be able to explain what is it that your client wants, what are the business implications of the actions that you take. So if these are the roles that kind of interest you, then yes, you will need to do an MBA.
So Vaishnav is back with this question. He wants to do an MBA in BFSI. Wants to know what the scope and growth of this.
Oh, there is what are we without money, right? So definitely,
Yes.
BFSI has a great scope, and with digital currency, with, again, like I say, blockchains, right? There's so much that's coming into this space that even talking about non-fungible tokens, there's the entire BFSI space really is disrupted because of algorithms, because of automation in their processes. So of course, understanding BFSI from a traditional lens is important, but if you look at the digital transformation across this space, I think it has tremendous scope. So yes, if that's an area that interests you, I would kind of say look at the digital side to it, and yeah, that should be good.
So this is your student, Dr. Brinda Sunita. She has said she has taken an MBA in NMIMS distance mode. What's the value of the online MBA for an overseas job? Is it possible to get an overseas job?
Certainly, yes, certainly. Why not, Sunita? Depends, again, like I say, which country you're applying to, right? Depends on what profile you're applying to. And having said that, what kind of skill sets do you bring onto the platter too, right? So please understand, for any student here who's looking at a job, one of the things that any organization would look at is your education background, right? But that's not the only thing which is your icebreaker. There are so many other nuances, right? So what if I'm the best, very well educated, but I can't come here and speak to you? What value does that hold? Really not, right? So an overall development is necessary. Kind of ensure that your MBA whatever mode you choose. You develop all these little skills of interacting with your batchmates, okay, making good presentations, having a good CV in place, being able to articulate your skills. So a lot of people write a lot of skills on their resume, which probably is not what we, when we speak to them, we don't find any of them at all. So ensure all these are in place, regardless of local, domestic, or international degrees or jobs. The degrees that you're aspiring for will find you a job if you kind of look for the right profile.
Right. Aditya is asking, sir, ma'am, how do I develop skills required for marketing in an online classroom?
Okay, so in an online classroom, back again, the way we teach our marketing courses, we get students to make presentations, right? So when you read, of course, we also supplement it with good enough case studies. We're discussing case studies from HBR. We are discussing case studies from what's really taking place in and around India, right? So reading up a lot will help, okay? Again, like I say, discussing with your classmates on several topics, okay, helps. And back again, being abreast with the recent, just keep reading a lot about your space, and that should work. Yeah.
One other thing, Aditya, for you is when you are in a online session, like the professor here said, that there are breakout sessions. In live sessions too, when the breakout sessions happen, you get into 3, 4, 5 group member teams, and you brainstorm an idea for that 15-20 minutes. Come back and present it on a Zoom. Please understand, presenting it in front of a lot of audience live is that much more easier than trying to present it online and making sure that everybody is still listening to you. It's a lot more arresting, if I may so, and therefore the learning that you will get online on an online side will be far higher. Second, because it is a 24/7 job, unlike a 9 to 6 or a 9 to 5 kind of a course, you are probably doing this entire thing, an MBA 24/7. Therefore, your ideas that you will get from your cohorts, from your friends, and of course from the teachers and the professors will be very, very high. So you don't have to worry about it. Online MBA could be equally good or even better sometimes without worrying too much about whether you learn or not. Okay, the NMIMS provide a business analytics course as a full-time course?
Yeah, as a full-time course, yes. We provide one in a full-time program. We provide one in the online program too.
So Aditi, that's your answer. There's one last question before I kind of thank you, Dr. Sampath. Could you please, ma'am, tell me the scope of project management and the advantages if I'm a bachelor's of architecture?
Perfect. So, all right. Project management basically exposes you to managing a project, right? So be it to do with architecture, be it to build, I would say even the metro that's taking place in Bombay, or a software, any such discipline, right? A project involves various elements, right? From initiation to budgeting to completion. All these activities need to be managed very well, right? And typically there are two problems with any project. One is it's never completed in time and it overshoot costs. Now, with the help of the challenges that we know, we enable students to be able to understand how to manage resources, okay, how to ensure that the project is completed in a very timely manner, right? So regardless, there is a specialization that we offer in project management, which caters to all these needs of the industry and helps you to manage a project in a timely and a budget-friendly manner with minimal resources. So yes, this will definitely be useful for you too.
To kind of sum it up, my friends, all of you are listening carefully, an online MBA gives you a lot more scope to learn sitting at home in a very, very comfortable environment, but having the same kind of a rigor as that of a regular MBA to a large extent at a probably a lesser cost, giving you enough exposure to cohorts from across the country and probably global world like NMIMS also has, and more importantly, many other different types of courses available to you to kind of choose from. Before I kind of thank Dr. Brinda Sampath for spending time with us, let me also tell you this particular interview and programs have been coming from careers360.com. We've been conducting the Career Connect program and will continue for the next 2 weeks. And then we will also take up on emerging technologies the week after the Diwali. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel of Careers 360 so that any important interviews or videos will automatically come to you as a notification. But with that, before I kind of end, thank you so much, Dr. Brinda Sampath. It was very nice having you here and answering all the questions that students have asked and I have asked very lucidly, very detailed manner. Thank you so much. And I'm sure NMIMS is doing its bit to make sure that the online education also becomes really, really hit. Thanks once again.
So much. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much, students, for being extremely attentive and interactive.
All the best. Thank you.